essentially, we wake up every day and we participate in an oppressive system when we eat. Each decade or each 20 or 30 years, things only got a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. But since it's one generation seeing it, bad has become normal.
Really, in the last 40 years, we've gone in one direction for how we raise animals for food, and that's bigger. In the words of a former Secretary of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, to get big or get out. And that's what we've done.
When you look at this larger system of animal agriculture, it's essentially connected to all parts of our lives.
Like in the state of Nebraska, because industrial ag is so embedded, they're not even aware of any alternatives. Or they're trapped in the system, but even if they want to change, they can't.
Animal agriculture is one of the top 2 or 3 contributors to virtually every environmental problem around the world.
From a structural perspective, our food system not only marginalizes animals, but it also continues to marginalize people of color right now who are predominantly in Latino and indigenous communities who still grow our food. The food industry can make us complicit and contributing to some of the kinds of oppressions that I think communities of color ought to be trying to resist.
More than we realize, imagining a different world means imagining a different way of farming and a different way of eating.
We can't think about animals the way we've historically thought about animals and expect a different result. We can't think about food, we can't think about our climate the same way and expect to see a different result. We have to engage our communities, we have to think as individuals, and we have to change fundamentally the way that we engage with our food.
This is a far cry from simply taking the current system and making minimal incremental improvements in it. At Farm Forward, we think changing farming has to be creating farms that fully embody our values, where animals have lives worth living, where they enrich the environment instead of harming it, where independent farmers have good livelihoods, and where people have food they can afford and appreciate.
To my knowledge, Farm Forward is the only group thinking actively about a world after factory farming and trying to craft the farm system that we hope to inherit.
What if we wanted to create generational change 2 or 3 generations from now? What would we need to start doing today in order to lay the groundwork for that kind of change?
It's trying to not just imagine things a little bit better, but really imagine things differently.
If we begin to think critically about our food, I think that puts us in a place where we begin to think more about what it means to be in solidarity, what it means to be about committed towards justice and towards love. And if you're thinking about that every time you eat, that is going to begin to change you as a person. And I think that's the kind of beginnings of the kind of radical movement that we have to really begin to change our communities and perhaps change the world.